I just graduated college and my goal is to get a job as a front-end web developer. One of the things I've been learning is UI state management with DOM manipulation, but now I want to take what I learned and actually build something with it. So in this video, I'm going to build a Kanban board from scratch. I'll take you through the entire process with me. Problem is, I've never actually built a project like this before, so I'm probably going to run into some problems along the way. I'm going to have to figure them out with them as I go. But that is the point of this channel. I'm learning these skills because I'm trying to get my first job in tech, and I'm documenting that process so that we can learn together. So if you're in a similar journey and you want to follow along as I learn and build my way towards becoming a front-end web developer, then subscribe. By the end of this video, you'll not only see the finished Kanban board, you'll have a blueprint for how you can build a project like this yourself, including the mistakes I made and how to figure them out yourself. If you didn't watch my last video, first, go watch it, it's pretty informative, or if not, here's a recap. We learned UI state management and DOM manipulation. So a Kanban board is a great project that will reinforce your understanding of those topics. But first, why a Kanban board? Because ChatGPT told me to. I really asked it, what's a project that I can do that reinforces DOM manipulation, UI state management? It told me to do this. A Kanban board is a simple project management tool that can move tasks around. That means for this project, we'll need to complete 5 tasks. 1, create the 3 columns. 2, create an add task function. 3, an ability to delete the tasks. 4, being able to move tasks from left and right. And finally, 5, do all of this while tracking the tasks using state. 5 is the big one. But first, let's start with the easy one, making the 3 columns. Pretty simple, just use HTML to create divs for each one, add an H2 to name them, to do, in progress, and done. Also add a div inside for all the stuff that we're gonna add later on. Once it's done, it'll look something like this. I also added classes for styling and to locate everything. Speaking of styles, here's my CSS folder. It's just simple stuff. This project isn't supposed to look nice, it's about function. But I mean, I might make a video about styling on it later on. Anyways, now onto JavaScript, which is what 90% of this project is going to be. First, capture all of the column divs into variables. Then, from what I shared last video, it's the global event listener, which will be used later on. Now, to make our state. Again, state is just the place you store data. We'll use a variable. I tried making the state an array at first, but that didn't work. So to make it easier, I made an object. I forget all of this other code. I'll come back to it later. Next is a logic for the state. The UI should reflect the state. We do this with the render column, render state, and update state. Now that we have all of these, it's time to make our render column, which is what will actually show up on the page. For task of tasks, I want to put the task on screen. How do I do this? DOM manipulation. Make a div to put everything inside of, make a span for text, and a delete button. Append all of those elements to the first div, then append that to the column. When I first made this, I was confused on what datasets to add to my state, so the only one I had initially was title. Next, on to making the add task button. This was essentially the same logic as the last part, except I used a form. The form's user input became the title, and I had to push the new task to the state. This is when I learned that an object of arrays was the best way to organize the state. Oh, and I had to remove the form afterwards. Now, all that was left was the delete button and moving tasks. These two were extremely hard for me. I knew the foundation of what I had to do, the listener, update state, fill the task, but I learned that the buttons were not connected to anything, so I couldn't access specific tasks. Also, my IDs were wrong. I don't know. First, what I had to do was connect the buttons. So I tried e.target, e.matches, .parent, .child, nothing worked. So after about half an hour of messing around, I just asked ChatGPT for help. Not telling it for ChatGPT to give me the answer, just some pointers. It told me about adding IDs to my state, so I did. I added them and copied them to the button, except instead of state.now, you see here, I just put it as a number, which sounds bad, but it worked. I added the filtering code chat also gave me to the delete button, and it was working. Figured everything was good, so I added some kind of dummy data to the in progress and done columns of the state, and nothing broke. So I moved on to the final part, moving tasks. Moving tasks is the same logic as both adding a new task, but to a different column, and deleting the original. But I ran into another issue. The move buttons were all the same when I added them in render state. That means that the code would bug out for in progress and done columns, but not the to do one. Now is when I needed to find some way to differentiate the columns that the buttons were in. I tried to use key value pairing in the state because the key was the name of the column, so I thought that'd work, but I wasn't having any luck. That's when I realized if I couldn't work my way up to the name of the column, I would work my way down and put a column data set inside of the data. That way, every state had a column data set to differentiate them. When I rendered the button and added a task, I gave them the column data sets as well. That was the big breakthrough I needed. I coded both move left and move right, made the event listeners for both, and everything was perfect. Finally, things were working the way that I wanted to, except when I added new tasks. The issue was the IDs again. Remember when I said that last time I just put standard numbers? Yeah, that was working up until this point, but when I deleted tasks and added new tasks, they would have the same ID number. That was when I went back to ChatGPT to ask them how do I fix something with my IDs getting the same values, and it told me to use some weird crypto ID function or date.now. Crypto didn't work, so I just used date.now. It was a lot simpler. Finally, all of the bugs got fixed and the app was running smoothly. Here is all of the code that I used, but I encourage you guys to try it for yourself. Just watch my last video to learn the tricks, try it yourself, and if you get stuck, try some things, then Google or ChatGPT for help and try again. It was so satisfying completing this. Oh, it took me a lot longer than I thought of. But again, it's pretty much the 5 tasks you have to complete for this. Your state combo, render it with manipulation, your add button to use the form, the delete button, and the move left and right buttons. Big things was to use a column dataset and an ID dataset, so the code knew which one to specifically alter. But anyways, that is it for this video. Subscribe if you liked it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.